Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a major snowstorm and ice storm, including an upcoming severe threat, including tornadoes. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. Good morning everyone, happy Christmas Eve out there. We got a lot to talk about, including places that are going to be seeing a white Christmas out there, because we've got winter storm warnings in place for parts of Washington and Oregon and California, with some snow coming in for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in those regions. But we've got that same system that will still continue to put snow into parts of Idaho as well as Utah here, going into the mountains of Colorado, Wyoming and Colorado here. Then we also have got some wind advisories in place with a very dynamic system that's going to be coming in. So you got to be concerned about some high winds into places where it's going to be dangerously dry out here, where they've got red flag warnings in the Panhandle in West Texas, where they're just desperate for precipitation. But it's snowing this morning, a pretty good dusting or two into parts of New York here, as well as southern New England. So they're going to be dealing with some snow this morning in that neck of the woods. Let's kind of take a look at where some of the snow is falling this morning from the latest NAM 3K kilometer view here. We can see it's still rain on the coastal regions of say Seattle and the Portland area, but we got rain showers into San Diego and Los Angeles, and welcome rains into Phoenix. All snow in the higher elevations, but there's your snow into parts of New York here, as well as southern New England, where they're getting a dusting or two. Some places have seen a dusting, some places have seen a little bit greater than an inch, but it's a nice little coating out there, up there in that region. But as we continue to view, they go through on Christmas morning, we've got to be concerned about some of this transferring to ice on Christmas morning. So a lot of you guys, that's typically not a big travel day. A lot of you are already in your location or staying home, but unfortunately they're going to be dealing with some ice up here into southern New England, where we've got that snow probably going to be transferring a little bit earlier than expected into places like Seattle and to Portland here, where I do feel now that they're going to be transferring some of that to snow, a kind of a wet snow, you know, getting into Saturday night into Christmas morning. Now with that snow starting to fall in those regions where it's going to be cold enough to transfer some of that into snows. And as we expand the view and kind of zoom in into that ice threat, yeah, could be a little bit significant event. Even a glaze of ice can cause major travel issues on the road. So if you live up here into southern New England, definitely be on the lookout for this potential for ice into Waterbury here. You can see some of these measurable ice accumulations into Keene, almost 1/10 of an inch. You get into Hanover, it is about a 1/10 of an inch. Burlington, I got a glazing of ice, but up here over a 1/4 inch of ice, and that is some thick ice. As you get into Woodchester, you know, a 1/4 inch of ice. Lowell, almost a 1/4 inch of ice. So you can definitely see that it's going to be treacherous travel up in this area for Christmas morning. So definitely be on the lookout for that, and stay off the roads if all possible up here in that region. So as we expand the view and go in through Christmas afternoon into the evening hours, that same threat will continue to pushing off up into our northeast, into Vermont and New Hampshire and southern Maine here, with that snow taking place. As we kind of warm up, that ice threat kind of wanes down, but the snow is still going to be flying into parts of western Washington here, western Portland, as well as northern California. And some of these totals could be significant. We're also going to be seeing some snow into portions of North Dakota, as well as northern Minnesota and parts of Wisconsin here. So let's kind of zoom in to some of these totals. Now, this is the latest HRRR model. This is your shortest mesoscale model between now and really December the 25th, about 10 o'clock. So Christmas night, Here's the latest thinking guidance, about 9 inches in Vancouver here, 1 inch in Seattle, almost 3 inches in Portland. Going into Spokane, about 1.5 inches. So you can see a pretty good dusting or two. And this is accumulating snow between now and Christmas night. And that would, all these locations would qualify for a white Christmas. So that is a beautiful sight to see up here. But unfortunately, with cold air in place, once that snow falls, it's not going to be melting anytime soon. It's going to be staying around for an extended period of time. If we shift further south, let's take a look at Salem, about 7.5 inches. I mean, Eugene, almost a foot. It's almost hard to believe we're looking at possibly a foot of snow just between now and Christmas night. So yeah, we're talking possibly a foot of snow into Eugene, Roseburg, about 6.5, Medford, about 5 inches. Yeah, so you can see some pretty healthy amounts in a lot of places that typically does not really see much snow. So that's going to be a beautiful winter wonderland up there in that neck of the woods. So if we expand the view and who all may see snow for Christmas Day, and it's a pretty good swath out here off into our western areas with that trough coming down and that Arctic air continue to sink in. We've got some healthy totals right here into Washington and Oregon and Nevada here, as well as Utah, into Salt Lake City and to Colorado, you know, going into Idaho and portions of Montana. And then you also have another band that'll go through North Dakota, as well as northern parts of Minnesota and northern parts of Wisconsin. And where they're getting that dusting this morning, that will continue shifting off into our northeast, like I mentioned, going into Maine as we go into Christmas afternoon. So beyond that, here's the latest vorticity index by the time we get in that 27th time frame. And you can see, I mean, it continues to drain Arctic air down here from Canada and pump in that relentless amount of precipitation off the west coast. So that continues, the snow will continue to fly as we get into the 27th time frame. And then we've got to start looking out further to the south, because we've got a lot of warm air in place down here further to the south, and we're starting to see this low level vorticity starting kind of to merge together and could kick off some severe weather by the time we get into that 29th time frame. So if we kind of zoom in for the 27th and where some of the snow may fall, yeah, still right along the coast, guys. I mean, so you're adding to those totals what I showed you earlier, and that same system will continue to push across kind of a zonal flow, you know, following the cold air into Montana, into North Dakota, as well as Minnesota, into Wisconsin. The rest of you guys are kind of high and dry and warm, very warm temperatures for Christmas and December standards. And we continue to the view to the 29th, and you can see these temperature gradients of what we're dealing with, what's just some of that extreme. This is a rare sight to see when you're seeing 50 below average temperatures in Montana, and then some of that Arctic air will try to drain southeast, but unfortunately not much does, but enough does to create instability in the atmosphere ahead in the warm sector into the south and the southeast. This is coming up on Wednesday, the 29th time frame. So we could be dealing with a round of severe weather starting to break out where that sector kind of meets. So let's kind of fine tune this and try to check out some of the dew points. This is very unusual to see 70-degree dew points for December the 29th. I mean, you know, that is just some crazy stuff. So obviously when you have that clash, bad things are probably going to happen, and that has a lot of instability, a lot of fuel in the atmosphere. We're going to be plenty warm ahead of it. So unfortunately, we could be looking at some severe weather starting to break out in far east Texas, going into portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, and parts of the southeast. So if we zoom into that area, there's the surface map. So we start to see showers and thunderstorms start to break out about midday in the afternoon time frame, you know, with the colder air kind of well to the north. And if we kind of zoom into the latest swaps view, Yeah, whenever you see about a 70% probability of possibly tornadoes happening, that is not a that's an indication where yeah, we could have a lot of spin in the atmosphere, but unfortunately we could be looking at some more severe weather starting to break out into eastern Texas here and to portions of Louisiana, going into Arkansas. I would say, western, getting into western Kentucky, western Tennessee, and to portions of Mississippi and portions of Alabama. I'm kind of deeply concerned about this zone as we get into the 29th time frame. If you take a look at the latest European flash index, where some of the lightning could take place by the time we get into the afternoon hours on the 29th time frame, yeah, right in this sector here, we could be looking at numerous showers and thunderstorms starting to bubble up, and there's going to be a lot of shear in the atmosphere, and some of these could be rotating and dropping a possibility of some tornadoes in its wake. So definitely be on the lookout for that as this setup starts to kind of come together. Here's the latest K index, which is kind of a measure of thunderstorm development and the numerous thunderstorms. And typically whenever you get about a 35 or higher, that typically implies numerous thunderstorms and possibly severe thunderstorms as well. So we're seeing a lot of parameters starting to come together that we could be looking at some more severe weather starting to break out in this region. As you zoom in the latest European extreme forecast as far as your CAPE for this time of year, it's a fairly significant probability of something happening between the 29th, 30th, and 31st time frame. That is the zone I'm kind of eyeballing right now for possibly severe weather into parts of East Texas and the South and parts of the Southeast, going into parts of the Ohio Valley here as we go into that 29th, 30th, 31st time frame. Here's the overall temperature anomalies as we get into the 31st time frame by Friday. Yeah, I mean, you can see that cold air. I mean, it's well bottled to the north. There's only subtle hints that some of that kind of sneaks in. So that's the reason it sneaks into the mid latitudes, and it doesn't really kind of push all the way through. So it's enough to create the instability in the atmosphere to force that severe weather probability of happening again on the 31st. So if we kind of zoom in on the latest tornado probability, as well as the forecast for the CAPE probability and the extremeness of this situation for this time of year, it kind of highlights this whole area into Louisiana and the Mississippi and to Alabama, going into parts of Georgia, going into Tennessee, parts of Kentucky. So this whole area. So yes, between the 29th, 30th, and 31st time frame, I'm concerned about right here in this zone for severe weather, and some of those could be looking at some tornadoes within that sector. And to the north into the Ohio Valley, I think it's mainly going to be a heavy rain and possibly a flooding threat for you guys in that region. But we're going to be having to deal with a lot of winds in its wake too, because we got a powerful jet coming across. We got a lot of southwest winds. Sometimes they turn west. That's where the highest the warmth is going to come from. That's why a lot of these areas are going to be seeing record high temperatures. Today, we could be looking at possibly 90 degrees in parts of Texas for Christmas Eve. So that is a lot of fuel to add to the atmosphere, that once some of that cold air kind of sneaks into that atmosphere, that's going to create the instability and can create that severe weather by the time that we get in that 29th, 30th, and 31st time frame, and a lot of heavy winds in its wake too, with going into portions of 60, 70, almost 80 miles an hour going through the mountains of Colorado, getting into West Texas and to parts of New Mexico, getting into the panhandle of Texas, easily probably seeing wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles an hour with this system as it continues pushing across. There's the rain going to be taking place between now and the end of the year. A lot of this is actually going to be forming in the form of snow where it's not cold enough. welcome rains for California, welcome rains for the Four Corners region. Unfortunately, it pretty much stops where they've got those red flag warnings and high fire dangers out here in the midsection of the country and the places that are just kind of bone dry. There's the heavy rain setup for the Ohio Valley, a good 2 to 4 inch swath coming up. I don't really expect probably severe weather up here. I think the severe weather more or less kind of stays from, say, Kentucky down further south into East Texas to much of the southeast. So this is the area I'm more concerned about for severe weather as we get into that 29th, 30th, and 31st time frame. And there's the snow between now and the 31st. A lot of heavy snow, not just in the mountain regions, but along the coast too. So you're going to be adding to those totals beyond Christmas Day in these areas, and then still get a good swath of 6 to possibly 10 inches of snow into portions of North Dakota, northern South Dakota, into Minnesota, into Wisconsin here, and it kind of tails off into our northern areas. But you're going to be adding to those totals into northern Michigan here, as well as upstate New York, into Vermont, New Hampshire, as well as into Maine. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Y'all be safe out there. Do have a weather radio plan in place for that severe threat potential that's coming up, and enjoy the snow out there into our western regions, but also be careful for that Arctic air that's going to be trudging in that could get deeply cold by the time we get into that 29th and 30th time frame out there. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.